Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'm so glad you're with us wherever you're joining us. We've been blessed to have so many viewers here in Santa Barbara, California at TVSB, locally on television. And then, of course, there's all these other ways to find us. And so many of you are from around the world at goodlifetelevision.org and the YouTube channel. And now there's a podcast platform that we're seeing many of you join us at, which is Good Life Conversations. And we're talking about the good stuff. We're talking with good people. Just it amazes me every week. Genuinely, I'm surprised every week because we just get to meet new people who have a vision, entrepreneurs, overcomers, visionaries, public servants, people of all, ages and stages. You'll find them all at goodlifetelevision.org. And so we're blessed. We're grateful you're with us to dwell on the good stuff. And I'm so grateful to meet Tanya Rapley today. Tanya, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that. It's the good life. It's all about the good life.
So it's all, I got my mug right here. We'll send you a mug. The mugs are the best. And we're talking about the good life. So Tanya's an award-winning millennial money expert, and she's creator of My Fab Finances. We're going to talk a lot about what she's done, but she's worked with a bunch of Fortune 50 brands and built a multi-million-dollar financial education business that's impacted the lives of thousands. So she's got a vision here for helping people. Some of the notes I took were related, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, but related to breaking the cycle of poverty, or the thinking kind of, and then becoming the CEO of our own lives. I love that. So let's start, Tanya, with just your background, kind of where you came from, your upbringing, and tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a career change agent. My mother and father are both military veterans. I went to college thinking that I was either going to work for the government or in communities. I decided to work within communities. And so I did affordable housing work throughout New York City, worked on affordable housing in the city of Miami and housing feasibility studies, and really realized that I went to college, I was serving communities and doing everything right, but my own finances were still, for the lack of a better word, a mess. And so I decided that I was going to change the trajectory of my finances. I couldn't afford to hire anyone to do it. So I became my own first client. And as I started to learn more about money, I realized that there needed to be a space for people to talk and learn about money from people who did not have financial backgrounds. Because sometimes the people who have those financial backgrounds talk in jargon, or they're detached from the reality that a lot of people who are struggling with their finances are existing with. And so that's how I got started. And that was 10 years ago. And so I've had the ability to work with so many different people from different backgrounds and different experiences, so that when they called me about going from broke, and I watched the first season because I was brought in as season 2, I absolutely felt like it was in alignment with the work that I felt like I was put here to do. And I felt like it could broaden the exposure around financial literacy and make it less daunting for individuals who are struggling financially or finding themselves hopeless as it relates to their money.
Yeah, that series you talked about, it's an award-winning series, actually. Going from Broke. It's co-produced by Ashton Kutcher and Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment, our good friends at Chicken Soup for the Soul, Crackle. We love those guys. So this is a fantastic series. If somebody's never seen this, introduce Going from Broke.
Going from broke is we work with real people who have real financial situations and give them real solutions at the end of the day. We do, we cast and find out, who do we feel needs our help the most? Not necessarily who do we think we can help, because then that would be too easy, but who do we feel needs our help the most? And do we have solutions and knowledge or the network to support them and help them with their finances? And so with Going from Broke, we follow a participant or we follow their family. They let us into their financial lives. They let us into their lives. They let us into their homes. We get really clear on what their current financial picture is, understand what their goals are, and then we give them solutions and help create solutions for them to get to where they want to go financially.
And so are the solutions, I mean, are you thinking this, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but I'll give it a shot. Are you thinking like tactically in terms of like organization, order, or is it also like a mentality?
That's a great question. That's a great question, Dean. It's both. It is both. And we can't give you the tactical if you don't have the mindset or don't have the belief that you can actually change your financial situation. There have been instances where we suggest, bringing in a financial therapist, because Dan nor I are therapists. We provide a shoulder to cry on, and then we'll give you some solutions, but we're neither one of us are therapists. And so there are people who are dealing with mindset. There are people who are feeling defeated. There are people who are feeling hopeless. And but there are also times where we step in and say, hey, I know you feel this way about this, but we looked at your numbers last night, and it's actually not going to take you the rest of your life to pay down your debt. If you make these small changes, you'll be able to pay down your debt in this particular amount of time. And I think that for some people, the problem seems so big and the problem has been present for so long, they give up on trying to create a solution, or they feel like there is no solution. And for us, we're new to the problem. And so we can look at it with our fresh problem solving hats and say, actually, there's a way out of this. Here's a light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to give you a lamp, and we're going to walk with you at the beginning, and then we're going to have to leave, but we're giving you all the tools you need to keep going.
Oh, that's so powerful. And the freedom, I think, that comes. I mean, I think it is way more common than not that people are tied up, and they're just tied up. There's so much disorder related to money. I mean, money, just the reality of money on planet Earth is we have to deal with it.
Yes.
I mean, it's just part of the deal. And yet it can do so much damage, and it can. And let me throw one other thing in there, because I think I've read this or heard this somewhere. I think it's true. This is probably the biggest stressor in marriages that there is.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yes. Research has shown that that's one of the things that couples argue over the most is money, how money is spent, how money is handled, how money is managed, how money is made. People argue about things related to money. And I do have to agree with you that there are more people who are dealing with financial stress and financial uncertainty than are not. When I tell people, when I introduce myself, if I'm at an event, I say, yeah, what do you do? I'm a financial educator. Overwhelmingly, people say, oh, I could really use your services. Oh gosh, like, let me get your contact information. It is extremely rare that someone says, oh, I love talking about money. Let me ask you a question. And it's an advanced financial question because they're in charge of their money, and because they're in a good financial position. A lot of people are struggling financially and are trying to figure out how to get ahead. And I think that's why this show is so important, because sometimes it can feel like you're alone. You don't necessarily talk about it at Thanksgiving dinner. You're not talking about it in the break room. You're not necessarily talking about it in, the chat room or in your group text, but it's something that's part of your reality. And I'm thankful to our participants for letting us in and letting the viewers in to see that this can happen to anyone. And if it's happening to you, you're not alone either.
Yeah, so good. If you're just joining us, I have Tanya Rapley with me. We're talking about the award-winning series Going from Broke, co-produced by Ashton Kutcher and Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. So where can they find it? Just before I get to my next question, Tanya, just help people just to very clearly find this series.
Yeah, so it is on Crackle. It is on the Crackle. You can, if you have a Roku or anything like that, you can download the Crackle app. You can watch it online, and it's totally free. You do not have to pay for it. You do not have to pay for Crackle. It is totally free, and that was very intentional when they were deciding on the home of this show, because how can we give a financial help show that we require you to pay to access
Right.
to provide? And
Right.
so that was very intentional, but you can watch it online or on the Crackle app.
Yeah, and we're huge Crackle fans here at Good Life. If you don't have Crackle, it's just, you need to get it. The kind of content, the kind of stuff. This is a powerful newish, not new, but this is a powerful platform. This is a great way to access great content like this series, Going from Broke. So let's talk about becoming the CEO of our own lives. Talk about that.
Yeah, that's my co-host Dan's. Like, that's his favorite thing. Me and him both have our things that we stand on. And becoming the CEO of your life really means taking charge. Your life, whether you're an entrepreneur and operate a business or not, your life is a business. Your life has elements. You have the finances, you have how you want to be perceived, which is your marketing, you have your operations, you have your human resources, who are the people who are going to be in your life, as like your allies or your relatives or your friends, the people that you can call on when you need help. And so every one of us, if we thought about operating our lives as a business, which means we would want to operate it as efficiently as possible, then we can think about becoming the CEO of our lives and making the decisions that allow us to succeed as an individual. There are some people who operate businesses and just kind of let their lives run amok. And it's like, no, your life is a business. Your life is a very important entity that you should be managing and diligent when it comes to the decisions that you make day in and day out. So becoming a CEO of your life really means taking charge and, treating your life like you own it, which you do.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. And so instead of crawling into a hole and putting a pillow over your head and trying to just hope it all goes away, it's actually the opposite. Stand up, take charge, move forward with clarity, purpose, even if the situation's tough right now. I mean, is that kind of the message?
Yeah, that's exactly the message. Because if you owned a company, you wouldn't do that. When you have
Right.
people depending on you to pay them and everything else, you wouldn't do that. And don't do that to yourself when it comes to treat yourself as important as you would treat your business or your job. A lot of us will show up to a job every single day, but we won't show up for ourselves. Or we'll show up for our employees every single day, but we won't show up for our family or for ourselves, or we will show up for our families and not show up for ourselves. So it is like, show up for yourself and your goals in your life the same way you show up for everyone else.
Yeah. And there's the talk about perspective for a minute, because I think that there is, if you're born into struggle, whether it's poverty or close to poverty, or where there's a kind of a spirit of struggle, um, there you kind of are born with a perspective. Then you're going to have a perspective ingrained to you. And I've heard it said that sometimes, the rich, the really rich and the poor sometimes can have something in common, which is kind of a materialism, that because the poor are saying, well, if I could only get this, and the rich is saying, well, if I only had that, that they actually have the same problem, where,
Yeah.
and I've heard it said, that there can be somebody who has means
Mhm.
that's holding on to every dollar because they said, I worked for this and I'm not going back.
Yeah.
That can be just as much of a prison as the other end of the spectrum, can it?
Yeah, and that's where we come down to the psychology of money. And I'm happy that you mentioned that, because there's a lot of decisions. There was a book that I read, and it was basically about the scarcity, the psychology behind scarcity,
Yes.
the understanding that a lot of times we don't make good decisions from a place of scarcity because it's stressful. We're in survival mode, and our best decisions are not made within survival mode. So when we think about the pervasiveness of poverty, a lot of times that is because people are operating in survival mode and they don't get to step out and make decisions from a privileged place of excess. They're making decisions from a place of not having enough. And even when they finally get enough for the moment, they are still operating at that same mindset that they operated in under survival mode, because that's all they know. And
Right.
it takes intense work to break that. We've seen people do it before, but it is work that you have to work on every single day. And that's something that we remind people of, and where some of our participants of Going From Broke is like, when we turn these cameras off and Dan and I go back to our day-to-day lives, you're still going to have to make decisions every day that are going to push you further than set you back. And it's not always going to be the easiest decision to make. And so when it comes down to finances, just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean you've addressed that mindset that you previously had. And if you don't eventually address that mindset, you'll easily find yourself back in that position. But there's fear regarding money can affect people at any income bracket. And one of the things I thought was really prolific about this season was that we work with people who are bringing in six figures. We work with people who have $1 million in net worth or $1 million worth of assets. But we also work with individuals who, their bank account is constantly in the negatives. They owe more on their assets, or they owe more on what they own than they make. They're not making enough money to pay their bills. And we wanted people to see that you can be up here when it comes to your economic bracket, and you can be down here and you have fears, maybe not
Right.
the same fears, but you have fears that create stresses in your life around money.
Right. Right. The fear can be there no matter what.
Regardless.
Yeah, I had a friend one time who's just, I mean, just we were driving one time, and he was a business kind of colleague, and he was saying, Dean, I think I'm finally bulletproof. He said, I mean, this is the kind of guy, he had insurance on his insurance, like he was so insured that, like, whatever could happen. And actually he went through shortly after that a really tough divorce, and like found out he wasn't so bulletproof. None of us are.
None of us are. We're human.
And so whether you have nothing or whether you're a billionaire, the fear's got to go. The thinking has to be right. Isn't that right?
Yes. Yes. And fear is normal. Fear is our bodies and our brains attempt to protect us from a perceived threat. It's a matter of what you allow the fear to prevent you from doing, such as investing. There are a lot of people who are afraid of losing money by investing, but if you don't overcome that fear and educate yourself with the information needed so that you can profit from the market, then you're not going to allow your money to work for you. If you're fearful of saving because you're afraid that you'll never have enough, then you'll get to a situation where you probably won't have enough because you haven't been saving. You haven't given yourself the opportunity to prove your fear wrong. And when it comes to a lot of our money and with some of the decisions that we have to make, it is proving our fears as it relates to moving forward when it comes to money wrong. I'm a money nerd, and in turn, I'm also a psychology nerd as it relates to money, financial behaviors. And there are some people who would rather negatively impact their finances or make decisions or sabotage themselves before giving anyone else an opportunity to do that. And that's very important for people to understand about themselves is, am I sabotaging myself as it relates to my money because I'm fearful of what may happen if I actually become financially stable? Because I've been operating in survival consciousness for so long.
Right.
If I'm no longer in survival, what does that make me? What does that mean about my identity? And then where do I go from there? Because I don't know what that looks like. I only know what this looks like.
That is such a great point. That is such a great point. What that fear of, I'm used to this. This is the way I'm used to, fighting. Well, what if I'm not fighting? What am I going to do? Like, what's that going to feel like to not be fighting in fight or flight or fear mode,
And it sounds crazy because you're like, no,
Right.
who wants to struggle?
Right.
But subconsciously, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Giving, I wasn't planning on asking this, but I want to. Giving, the spirit of generosity. I feel like that is so. I had somebody tell me one time, if you're down to your last dollar, if you're struggling, go to your closet and find a piece of clothing and give it away to somebody else who doesn't have as much as you. And I processed that for a long time. Like, what is it about a spirit of generosity, somebody who gives, that actually attracts more? What is it about? Can you talk about that? Is this crazy? Does that sound crazy, that question?
It's not crazy. It's how I operate my life. I literally on my personal Facebook just posted that I give so much because I receive so much. And the more that I give, the more that I receive. And it's all about allowing things to circulate. It's allowing yourself to help others, but allowing other people to help you in whatever way that may be. But that thought process of like, if I don't have anything, but I still give something, that's a few things. That is essentially saying that I might not have it all, but I know that I have enough to help somebody else who also doesn't have or doesn't have what they need. I have enough of this need that I can help someone that does not have enough of that particular need. But I think that what another thing it does is it just opens you up to receive, because it says like, I'm not putting a wall around the way that I'm impacting others' lives, and I'm not putting a wall around the way that I am impacted by others or by jobs or other opportunities. Gratitude is one of my favorite things. I had a friend that told me, a lot of people aren't. Some people are religious, some people aren't. But he told me gratitude is God's love language, and I really love that belief. It's
Mm,
just like showing gratitude is acknowledging what you have. And
yeah.
when you acknowledge what you have, you realize that you are more abundant than just your bank account. It's not just
Yeah.
about your money. It could
Right.
be about the fact that you ate dinner last night. It could be about the fact that you have gas in your car. It could be that you haven't had any health concerns or that you have use of all five of your senses. There's so many things for us to be thankful for. And I think that
Yeah.
doing a small thing makes you think about, man, I may not have everything, but I have enough to be a blessing to someone else or allow someone else to benefit from this thing that I have. And it doesn't cost me a dime.
Ah, so good. Yeah. Friends make you rich. Money doesn't make you rich. It turns out, friends make you rich. I have a mentor who said that, everybody deals with two things in life, money and relationships, and one of them will make you rich.
Yeah.
But
Unless you have the right relationships, money won't make you rich. Like
that's
you still
right.
gotta have the right relationships.
That's
Money,
right.
money alone will make you rich, but friends, three times over. I'm in the process of selling my home and actually just sent about 6 bags worth of stuff because I have a toddler, and anybody who has toddlers know they grow every season. So I had 6 bags of stuff to give away from him and myself. And I was like, wow, I'm just really thankful and excited that someone else gets to benefit from this. Someone else gets
Yeah.
from these children's clothes that kept my son warm, and now it will keep a child warm that might not have the financial resources that I have. I don't need people to pay me for things. I just gave away a full bedroom set to a woman who needed it, who was starting over. I don't need anyone to pay me for anything because I get to help people every day for a living, and that's a blessing in itself too. So.
Right. Oh, I'm so great. It's so great to meet you. Yeah, the the one of the stories that has stood the test of time from the scripture is the widow's mite. The widow who it was. I think the currency was actually less than a penny,
Mm.
but it was all she had. And Jesus pointed to that as saying, "There's somebody who is, you know, that's trust." I mean, and to give. I mean, there's a billionaire who recently passed away, and he said, look, if I saw all my money as mine, I would not give you a red cent. He
Mm.
said, but I see all this is coming through me. God owns it all. And that's why he had the heart of generosity. He said, if this was mine, I wouldn't give you a nickel, you know, but this
I
guy
love
was
the
very
honesty.
generous.
Yes,
That's the different perspective. We're a conduit through which other people can be blessed. Is that
absolutely, absolutely,
I
absolutely. And
know
I
this is the way you feel.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, as someone who is a financial educator who chooses to help people with their finances, that's some of the work that I do is helping people see how abundant they are and how much opportunity they have and the different ways in which, for lack of a better word, blessings are showing up in their lives. And, there's so many people that I love from previous seasons, but this season in particular, because we have Purple Heart veterans. We have a mother who is a lifetime educator. We have two educators. We have a substance abuse counselor. We have farmers who are feeding America. There's just so many people who are good at their core. And it just also goes to show you can be good at your core and still have financial worries. But I think that what we see is like when you're good things happen to you too. And a lot of good things happen for the participants of the show this season. And so there are a lot of tears that flow because we really do fall in love with we're integrated in their lives. We really are. And so there's a lot of tears this season, but there are also a lot of victories.
Oh, I love it. So once again, Tanya Rapley, the series is Going from Broke, co-produced by Ashton Kutcher and the great people at Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. You can find it on Crackle. I'd encourage you to do so. Encourage you to find Tanya Rapley if you need help. She's the money expert and creator of My Fab Finance. And I'll tell you what, her perspective is right on. It's so great to meet you, Tanya.
Thank you, Dean. Yours is as well. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for this platform that you created and for allowing us to be a part of it.
Oh, we love it. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, and thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time.